So I think we can get started. Let's begin. Hello and welcome to our third meeting in the Empowering the Truth Summit series. Today we have a workshop on how to get going on vertical video or mobile video. And this is all in service of making sure facts reach as many people as possible. Hi, I'm HR Venkatesh at Boom. We're fact checkers based in India, and we work out of India and Bangladesh and Myanmar. And to teach us all of this today, we have Manon Verchot and Sanshey Biswas. Before introducing them and handing over to them, let's do a quick reminder of where we are in this series. So this is where we are at today. This is the program for today. And like last time, we're going to do about 60 minutes or 40 minutes, and then we'll have question and answer, and we'll try and get all questions answered, because we know very often that many questions tend not to be answered, and some of the learnings also happen in the Q&A. So we'll try to do that. Let me just show you where we are in the context of where we started. We started with Dr. Masato Kajimoto. He spoke about how we might make the truth go viral. It was a keynote address. And then last Thursday, we had a session on how to, make sure that our fact checks and our reporting reach as many people as possible via social platforms. Today, we have this. I'll come to that in a second. And next Thursday, we have the basics of podcasting, why they're important, and teaching us that will be Amit Verma. And we're going to round off the last 2 Thursdays of March with the co-founders of Splice Media. We have Rishad Patel talking about design basics for journalists who want to spread facts. And finally, overall strategic communication, how to get your overall strategy exactly right before settling on any sort of tactics. So that is the entire program. Of course, we're at number 3 in a series of 6. Let's put it that way. So we're somewhat at the middle. And before I hand it over to Manon and Sanshey, let me do a quick introduction. Manon is a French-American, a multimedia journalist and the co-founder of In Old News, a media company that provides learning resources, technical assistance to journalists. She previously headed video operations at publications like Mongabay, Hindustan Times, and Mint. She wears many hats, having worked as a reporter, as a manager, as a trainer, a producer, and editor, and her work, which often focuses on the intersection between the environment and society, has appeared in The Guardian, Global Post, Scientific American, Huffington Post, TRT World, and others. And we have Sanshey Biswas. He's a journalist who's been working with newsrooms to build their multimedia capacity using phones and other emerging technologies. Since 2017, he started his career as a print journalist before working on leading Indian publications, websites, social media, and video strategies. He also runs In Old News, which, just to tell you, is a media company that's working on making learning and publishing resources more accessible to journalists. He also reports and produces journalistic stories for media production, media publications, and he's also working on new skills, trying to learn and apply these new skills, such as animation and design. So that's a quick introduction. This is what's happening today. It's over to you, Manon and Sanshey. Thanks so much for doing this for us.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today. A big thank you to ICFJ, Boom, and to Venkatesh for this series of wonderful workshops. So we're just going to share our screen real quick so you can all see what we've got prepared for you today. Like Venkatesh said, today we're going to be talking about some of the ways to think about how to use mobile video for truth telling. But first, to add a little bit of our introduction in the context of today's presentation.
I am Sanshey.
And I'm Manon.
And for the last few years, 6 years, 7 years, like Venkatesh mentioned, we've been kind of like really engrossed in making news videos and helping other journalists make videos for news for different publications like Hindustan Times, Outlook, Mongabay, and now we run our own company in Old News, which is to help produce and also upskill journalists, produce stories and help journalists upskill.
Yeah, so when Venkatesh reached out to discuss how video can be used to spread facts and disinformation, we were really excited because video has never been more accessible for people than it is now. And that's both in terms of like how many people are able to watch videos as well as how many people are able to make videos. It's just becoming more and more accessible every single year.
Yeah, and it might seem like it's been like this for a while, but actually, even when we started, it was really hard to edit something very as basic as vertical video, which is picking up a lot of steam. And that's going to be the focus for today. Like, if we had to edit a vertical video in 2017, we would maybe use 3 or 4 different apps to kind of one for cropping, one for editing it landscape, and all do all of these like acrobatics around it to make it work for the platform. But with more platforms kind of embracing this vertical format, it's also seen as a quick way or a bite-sized piece of content that has a lot of potential to spread your reporting through the video format.
Yeah, absolutely. So not only are we seeing apps that allow us to do vertical video editing like we didn't before, you can do a lot of the vertical video editing directly in apps like on TikTok and on Instagram. So there are many ways to focus to make videos, but the reason we're going to be focusing on vertical videos for Instagram Reels, TikTok, and Shorts is that there's just so much potential to reach young people, not just with factual information, but you can also use these formats to do pre-bunking. And if I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this, but for those of you who aren't, that's this idea that you can teach people how misinformation spreads and warn them about what they should look out for when they're scrolling online so that they maybe don't fall for some of the most common tricks of disinformation or fake news.
And even when like vertical video really started picking up, whether it was with Snapchat or with the stories format coming onto Instagram and Facebook, one of the most popular way for people to use it was to use it as a behind the scenes look into your daily work, right? So it's kind of a very personal medium because it feels like a FaceTime call or a WhatsApp call, and it's more organically conducive to help you bring your audience to your workplace, right, or to the work that you're doing. So even these offshoots of vertical video, of new formats of vertical video, can be really useful in doing that.
Absolutely. So that's not to say, though, like we do want to acknowledge some of the limitations of the format as well, because there are some limitations, namely the fact that it can be really hard to go in depth on a subject or provide nuance, because often these videos tend to be less than 40 seconds long or less than a minute long, and that's a valid concern. It can also be hard to make one video for every single platform because a song or audio that might be trending on Instagram, for example, may not be trending on TikTok and vice versa. So if you want to make one video that you publish across platforms, it's doable, but it might not perform as well on across every single platform that you publish on. So that can be a challenge. And then the algorithms that select how videos are shared to people on the different platforms can be different too.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of publications also have a different strategy for TikTok, a different strategy for Instagram, and a different strategy for some other platform. Which means that you also need more people and more resources to do that. So it might not be practical for everyone, but that's just something to keep in mind, that a little bit of tweak can go a long way when you are trying to appeal to a different audience.
Yeah.
Um, Also because these platforms kind of use the algorithm in a different way, so they're tweaked with different priorities in mind. So trying out each platform individually and seeing what works on particular one can really help you in long term, and can give you a better idea of what kind of format you want to use for a particular story, and do you want to use the same one for every single platform, or do you want to use a different strategy for different platforms?
Yeah. That said, all of that said, we still think that vertical videos can be such a great starting point for getting people's attention on important issues like fact checking and disinformation. So we want to look today at 6 different formats that are common on social media, and then we're going to look at how newsrooms and influencers use these formats. Some of the ones that we're going to be going through are
image or article or data or web page, basically any piece of content behind in a green screen cutout format, which has you already are familiar with using this on Zoom or video calls, where you can swap out the background, but you can also do that in a short vertical video.
Yeah, and we'll be showing actually practically how to do that later in today's session.
Then there are skits and short acts, which are really creative heavy, I would say, because you basically are building the entire scenario from scratch based on a particular piece of news or information, and trying to convey it in a format that people are usually watching on these platforms.
Yeah, we have the map zoom in, where we're zooming in on a location, so we'll show you that also. Very short explanations or explainers are quite common on these platforms. Trending music, of course, which was the root of where a lot of these platforms like TikTok came, or like dialogue, or even the apps that predated TikTok.
Yeah.
And tutorials are also very popular. So what we're going to do now is we're going to be trying to play you some video examples of each of these formats so that we can discuss them. But we know that doing video playback in a webinar can be a little bit tricky. Either, if your internet is not a particularly good connection, or if our playback is not working. So we're actually going to be dropping a link. Divya from Boom has the link, and she'll be sharing that at some point with you all, so that all of the videos we're showing you can actually watch after this session.
Don't worry about missing out. We'll also try our best to explain what's happening in it in case the video isn't playing back properly, so that you can follow along.
Yeah. All right, so let's get started with the first example, which is this image or article or data that comes behind, and we're starting with an example from Vox's YouTube channel.
Yeah, and this format is really took off on both TikTok and Reels, actually. But now you can also do it on YouTube Shorts. It's something that is now so ingrained into the platforms that this filter is available on basically all of the apps that you'd want to try. Like, these 3 are the big ones that we know of, and Snapchat also is there. Even on that, you can probably do that. But this is not to say that this would not work on other platforms just because you can't make it on that. It is a format that can translate very easily because you're redirecting the person to a bigger piece of information. Often vertical video can become a little restrictive because you have to complete it within a minute. So that's 100 words, 200 words at most of script. And when a presenter is trying to explain something, that usually becomes really hard to incorporate nuance or the nitty-gritties of the stories into. But if you take a certain piece of the information that's really interesting and can serve as a hook, you can have a better chance of redirecting people to a longer piece of work that you're doing, whether that is an extensive fact check that takes a lot of steps and is not just completed within one step that can be encapsulated in a minute, or it can be any other journalistic story which required you to travel or take a longer amount of time to kind of prepare and put out there.
Yeah. Right? Shall we watch it?
Okay.
When you
Okay.
It's always unsettling when you come across a scatter plot where much of the developed world is hanging out together over here, and the US is in a different galaxy. In this case, it's gun ownership rates plotted against gun death rates. It's a very big, very difficult problem. What do we do about it? Well, the RAND Corporation just put out this incredible table that summarizes more than 150 studies about how these policies affect these outcomes. I'll highlight the ones with M's and S's. Those mean moderate evidence and supportive evidence, which is the strongest result. And the arrow shows the direction of the effect. Unfortunately, when it comes to mass shootings, we don't know much about what works yet. But we do know that we can reduce the deaths of kids and teens with laws that require guns to be kept out of reach of children. And then there are a couple of policies that seem to increase homicides. One is the stand your ground laws, which make it easier for someone to use deadly force when they feel threatened. And second, laws that make it easier for people to get a concealed carry permit. Right now, a majority of US states have both of those laws on the books.
All right. So this is a really effective way, like this big data set here, it can be a little confusing for people to read through if they come across it. And so this format really helps walk people through which parts they need to be paying attention to with the presenter from Vox showing us.
And the presenter is basically using this as a canvas to like jump around, point to different parts. But also they are very aware that you cannot read this information on your phone. It might be a little bit clearer on the desktop, but when someone's watching this piece of information on the phone, it's really hard to see such a big detail without zooming in. So they do that for you. So there's that awareness of like this platform needs you to be a little bit more dynamic, and you will notice this theme carry on to all the other formats that we see also. The really good examples have a lot of movement. They have a lot of activity going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And this can be a really good format for fact checking. We're actually going to show this next example that's also with the article behind is from Boom, of how you can walk people through a fact check using this format.
Where did that come from?
Many old viral videos are resurfacing amidst the earthquake in Turkey that has taken over 21,000 lives already. One of these many videos shows a couple of cars being rattled on a highway. They seem to be hit by a powerful earthquake that in fact took place in Japan in 2011. By breaking this video down into key frames and running a reverse image search, Boom was able to determine that this video was a consequence of an earthquake that took place in Japan's Tohoku region in the year 2011 and was not part of the earthquake in Turkey that struck both Turkey and Syria. For more such interesting and timely fact checks, head to the link in our IG story or bio.
So short, concise, gets to the point, doesn't really have much of like fluff padded around it, but gives you the most precise amount of information that is required. And this is something that we learn to do today, so stick around till the end.
We'll show you how to do something like this yourselves. By the way, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat.
Q&A.
In the Q&A, where we'll be taking them as we go along if you have any questions. So the next format that we want to talk quickly about is skits or short acts, which are very popular, and Washington Post has really championed this. One thing we noticed, though we don't know what the editorial decision behind it was because we're not in the editorial meetings, is that the videos that they publish on TikTok are not necessarily published on Instagram. So it seems like they may have a different strategy for both, but they do a lot of skits and short acts on their TikTok channel, and we'll take a look at one of those.
4-day work week trial in Britain just ended. It was a 6-month trial with nearly 3,000 participants. Workers said it helped with their sleep, personal lives, and mental health. By the end of the trial, 39% of participants had less stress and 71% had reduced levels of burnout. Of the 61 companies that participated, 56 said they would continue to implement the 4-day work week.
All right, so my favorite part of this is the fact that he literally cuts out Friday on the calendar. What really works about this skit is that all of the visuals, like whatever he's doing, really tie into exactly what he's saying. And that's what's really important about video. When you have something in a script, to be able to illustrate what you are talking about through visuals in addition to what you're saying out loud can be really effective. So he's done this, we have the percentages up, looks like he's a professor and it's based on a study, so that's helpful. When he's talking about mental health, he's playing with a dog, and many studies have shown that animals can help people with their mental health. So all of the visuals tell a story in addition to what we're hearing from the presenter.
Yeah.
This is another sort of skit or short act from the LA Times TikTok, they use a sock puppet quite often. And this might be a little hard to convince your boss to do, but we just wanted to stick it in there to show that the creative possibilities are endless.
Sorry to report that humans are no longer the top consumers of plastic waste on Earth. Yeah, no, it's whales. They're consuming millions of particles of microplastic a day! That's according to a study off the coast of California, which finds it's not the water, but the krill and fish they eat. Of course, human beings eat them too. The fish you eat them, and then you eat those fish. Yeah, I know. The health impacts of consuming microplastics are yet unknown, but it goes to show, we're on this rock together. You can't dump plastic waste into habitats and not expect to digest it later. So don't poop where you eat, or where others eat. I'm Judah, and this is the Sorry Report.
So this is a fun example of, using some creative license to tell a story. The talking is really fast.
Yeah.
But what we noted, but there are subtitles, which is helpful. And actually subtitles on social media or just in general in video are super important because they allow you if someone, if someone is not putting their audio on, like they're in a meeting but they're scrolling on Reels or on Instagram or whatever, they can still follow, but also you're reaching people who are hard of hearing. They can still follow the content of your video. So adding subtitles is super important.
Yeah, and some of the subtitles are not exactly subtitles. Like if you were just reading it, it would be hard to follow. Like it says human beings instead of human beings. And I think that's conscious effort to kind of commit to the meme culture that is prevalent on TikTok. And because this is a strategy for TikTok, they're trying to make the content seem very, very native to the platform. And that seems to be working. The other thing that you'll notice is that there's a lot of movement. Like we can't mention this enough, but the sock puppet is all over the place. There's a green screen background that has been keyed out to put a whale in the shot because the story is about whales eating plastic as a result of eating other fish. So
movement keeps people's attention if there's a lot of movement, whether that's text or the presenter moving around. And this video does that particularly effectively.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The next format is this map zoom in that we discussed, which is used a lot by influencers to zoom in on a location and show you some beautiful spot somewhere in the world that you didn't know about. Shall we take a look?
Yeah.
All right, so this one is particularly effective because it builds anticipation. You're really wondering what you're going to see at the end of it. It's kind of a mystery. You can grab people's attention for that. But the other reason we like it is because it can really work. Fact-checking relies a lot on using map verification, street view, satellite imagery to ensure, to check if a visual actually came from a certain location or a video came from a certain location. And so you can really use this map format to make videos about fact-checking certain events or things that have happened. And that's one of the other things that we'll be showing you how to do a little bit later in the workshop.
Yeah. And we'll also do this example, which actually might seem like it's a very precise zoom in, but actually the trick is that it's done in reverse and then added onto the edit of what reveal you see in the end, which is really short. So this one's edging towards clickbaity territory by making you spend 12 seconds on a map before showing you 2-3 seconds of the actual reveal. But we can work with that also.
Yeah. The other format that's popular is the explainer format, or very short explanation. Can really work if you have some bite-sized facts that you can add for people.
Yeah.
This is a photograph from 1940 when the harmonium was banned from the All India Radio. The ban remained till 1971. The harmonium first entered India through Christian missionaries. Though popular among music enthusiasts, John Foles, the head of the Western music wing of All India Radio, published an article suggesting the harmonium's tuning made it incompatible with Indian music, a sentiment that even Rabindranath Tagore agreed with, who forbade its use in his ashram. Added to this was the rise of the Swadeshi movement, which resulted in nationalists like Jawaharlal Nehru finding it un-Indian, ultimately culminating in the ban. Despite that, many classical musicians still use the harmonium. This picture then speaks of the attempt to ban the harmonium due to its apparent un-Indianness and the subsequent irony of it residing in the common Indian consciousness as something intrinsically Indian. This was the Swaddle bringing you a video from our series, Picture This.
So this swaddle example is a great example of how to make a video super engaging, even if you have no footage, because it's entirely photos based, specifically archival photos. But we get that movement that we don't get from a moving video through the way the text comes in, through the way the images are coming in, and that just keeps people's attention. And you'll notice that there are subtitles included in this video also to keep people who aren't watching with sound on or who may not be able to hear the video watching the whole thing.
Yeah, and this can require a lot of After Effects or Premiere Pro jobs, but if you have that capacity or that is the direction you want to go in, this is something that can be really useful in a pinch where you are talking about a historical topic where video access will be really, really hard to get because there's not much video from that time. And even when they use a document, they're making an effort to animate it a little bit with the highlighter and all of these. And when it's a particular person that they're talking about in a group photo, they're highlighting the person with a little bit of background color while the entire photo is black and white. So all of these factors kind of add up in helping hold your attention. Now that does mean there's a lot of production that goes in, but that's a call you can take based on the stories that you're doing. Some stories can be really easily done, and you can just do it within the app itself. You don't even have to leave either TikTok, Instagram, or Snapchat or YouTube Shorts, whichever one is your go-to. And others can require more planning, but that is how you need to think about it when you are already in the process of brainstorming or doing the story idea, because when you're in the process of doing the story, it can be really helpful to capture these images, whether it's just photos of you working on something or certain really key screenshots which can help illustrate how you came to the conclusion of the story or how you did your reporting.
The other format that we would talk about is the trending music or dialogue, which is sort of the base of a lot of these apps, right? And so what happens often with trending music is that the style that goes viral is that the visual or photo changes on the beat of the music. So we're going to play an example from Washington Post. This is from their Instagram page.
Yeah, the previous example we saw was
from their TikTok.
Yeah. This one.
And I know, so the music levels are really low on this video, so you might have a bit of a hard time hearing it. That's why we'll drop a link with the videos so that you can watch it again. But basically, again, we can't speak to what editorial decisions were made for why they did this, but we noticed at the beginning of the video is a quick succession of photos, which is very similar to the style that we see on Reels,
on travel content, or
any sort of content.
Where you're using the beat to change the visual so that it kind of seems like trendy video. And in this, what is happening is there's a beat that's going on and the image is changing with it. So hopefully the music will go through. And
we started in the summer covering the American deadly opioid and fentanyl epidemic. My assignment was to go show what is it like near the border where most of the drugs come to the United States.
This one's a bit long, so we're not going to show the whole thing, but basically as the song is going dee 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 dee, like every visual is changing. Let's just take a quick look one more time and then we'll move to the next.
We started in the summer covering the American deadly opioid and fentanyl epidemic. My assignment was to go show what is it like near the border where most of the drugs come to the United States.
So that's the one way that trending audio style can be applied to something that's maybe a little bit more journalistic. The final format we're going to talk about before starting to get into some more practical how you can get started on all of this is the tutorial style. I think everyone loves to learn how they can use their devices in the most optimized way to do things. And so the tutorial style in Reels and on TikTok is very popular.
5 Google Maps secrets exposed. Number 1, double tap on the map and you can zoom in or out just by using one finger. Number 2, tap on the blue circle and you can save your parking location. Once you return, simply click on the parking location and you can clear it out. Number 3, tap on your profile picture, then timeline. You can view all of the different places that you've been, and you can even see the pictures that you took at those locations. It's like an automated diary. Number 4, tap on the layer icon. Then click on Street View, and down at the bottom you can travel back in time to see how a location has changed. Number 5, tap on the arrow icon and you can choose a vehicle that's a little bit more fun.
All right. So the reason we particularly like this example is because we're getting back to maps, and we've talked a little bit about how much maps and Street View are so important to helping in fact-checking efforts. So you could very easily make a video that's like 5 ways to use satellite imagery or 5 ways to use maps to help you verify a story, or 5 tips for fact-checking or checking if the information you received on WhatsApp is true. So this format can be very effective for some of the work of fact-checkers.
Yeah. And you'll notice that they're like really making an effort of showing where you're supposed to tap and what you're supposed to do. So really breaking it down and illustrating not only just adds like more interactivity for your user because they're seeing what's happening, and there's like this one's a little bit over the top with like exposed but what you could do is like to really make it in your own voice, and but also take the time to kind of explain or take your audience through the idea that you want to present.
Yeah. So these were just some examples of the potential of vertical video. There are so many ways to do this, and every day we're seeing new formats come up. So if you haven't made videos like this before, you might be wondering how to get started. And the first thing to do, if you're not doing this already, is to just watch tons of vertical videos from different places. And we're not just talking about videos from other fact checkers,
It's for work.
though that's
It's
really
fine.
important. Yeah, you can like argue that if you're doing fact checking work,
It's
it's important
research.
to watch reels. Exactly. But we're also talking about like it's important to spend time looking at what influencers are doing, what lifestyle
Yeah.
brands are doing, artists, basically anyone who is using Reels, Shorts, or TikTok regularly. Check out what they're doing.
Trends come from all kinds of disciplines, professions, backgrounds. So having a healthy mix of that in your diet really helps, and the Explore page is a good way to find that.
Yeah. The other thing is you can look at internet trend blogs. You know, places like Slang Social or Social Insider have a lot of, like, they'll do roundups very regularly of what the trending audio is and stuff like that, and you can use that to help you out. One thing that we like to do is whenever we come across a video or song that we like, we save it. On Instagram, you have this option within the app. On other platforms like YouTube Shorts, as far as like, it's not like super simple to figure out, so it's easier to just save the link in your chats or in notes and then come back to it later.
You'll either have these 3 dots or a share button when you're watching this in the feed. So whether it's whichever platform it is on, you will have either a share or triple dot to copy the link or save it to your profile. So in this case, if you copy the link, you can just save it in your notes or make a WhatsApp chat dedicated to collecting all of the trending reels that you want to use for future inspiration. In case you're on Instagram, you can just click on these three dots, or there is a bookmark option that shows up right under this paper plane envelope type of icon, and that just directly lets you save it. So
if you
this
tap
is
on the
what it
three
looks like.
dots, you get the save. And if you want to go then find what
Or
you've
to copy link,
saved,
you use this.
yeah, and if you want to find what you've saved, you go to your profile, and on the top right, there's the three lines, which will then open up this menu that has your saved images. So the reason why we encourage you to save is because you might not know when you see something you like, you might not know right away how you want to use it. But maybe one day you have a fact check and you're like, hey, I really want to make a vertical video for it. You can go back to your saved posts, watch them, and figure out like which style would make the most sense for what you're trying to do. So on Instagram, all of your saved videos and audios will be there for future inspiration. And for other platforms, you can save the URL. Do we have any questions up until this point?
Yeah, I believe we can take a couple of questions. Folks, please send in your questions. Don't wait for the end. As they occur to you, send it so that we can start asking. So there's a question from Irfan Mehraj. What are some of the best video editing tools for the mobile phones? So I actually tack on a question onto Irfan's question, which is, how many of these have been edited on the phone and how many have been edited outside? Is there a way you can tell?
It's actually, it can be a little bit hard to tell exactly where something has been edited, because video editing apps on phone are actually becoming almost as good as some of the ones that you can get on desktop. But we can take a guess. So something like this.
This one's definitely edited on the phone.
Waterfall is edited on the phone.
So the giveaway is the text template, which is, I don't think someone would go through the trouble to get this kind of template, which is very common on Instagram, to actually do it on the computer. And since this is a screen recording from the phone, they probably didn't even bother sending it to a different place. The only thing that might actually, even this part, yeah, I think this is completely done on the phone, this particular example. It's possible to do it on the phone. It would just take a little bit longer. There is a lot of movement. You could do a simpler version of this very quickly, like in half an hour, 40 minutes on the phone. But with the amount of movement that's there in this green screen video, it's probably not done on the phone, just to save time. This one definitely done on the phone. Every single clip in here is done, and this one maybe used a separate what do you call it, an effect. There is a mirror effect or a template that you can use on social apps, which kind of turns one image into grids. There are also filters which do this, so this is probably just using a filter. And otherwise, this, even if it's not like edited together on a phone, which I don't know why you would do that, but it definitely seems like it was definitely shot on a phone.
Yeah, and probably edited. It might have even been edited in TikTok itself.
Yeah.
And the screen behind is something that you can also do on the phone.
This one you would have to tell us.
Yeah, but we suspect that this is
we'll
probably
get
done
to
on
it
the
towards
phone.
the end.
But basically, and in answer to Irfan's question, so you can edit in the apps directly, like Instagram and TikTok, but one app, and I'm really glad you asked this question because we're actually going to show you how to do this, is called VN Video. It's our current favorite video editing app on the phone, and the reason for that is that it's free, and you can use it on an Android or an iPhone. It works, and it can work on your desktop also, or your laptop, though we prefer the phone version. It's a little bit simpler to use. So vlognow.me is the website for VN Video.
And if you want to follow along, you can start downloading this app.
Yeah, we'll be doing a demo, so if you want to follow as we do it, you can start this download.
Yeah, I just want to point out, I don't know if you guys will know it, but in some cases, depending on which country you're coming from, your app store may not have that particular app, but you will find equivalent apps like pretty much anywhere. I have another question. Sorry to interrupt. I have another question. So would you prefer an editing app on the phone or the native editing app on the app, like for example on TikTok or Shorts or Reels, to the app on the phone, the editing app on the phone?
Personally, I generally prefer the editing app, but that's a really personal preference.
Yeah, but when we do stuff for newsrooms, we often kind of do a mix of both. So we'll be doing shooting a bit of it in the native app. So like all the social apps now have really good cameras with editing features, and you can even add text or b-roll, and you can basically do everything that you would be able to do on a separate one. The only thing that they don't have a really good option for right now is having a backup of your recordings or the edit projects that you did. Now that can be a really big problem if you need to re-export or there is some issue with the information that you've put and you need to tweak it a little bit. So in those cases, it's actually safer, especially for non-fiction work, to do it on a separate editing app so that you can go back, look at the different versions, make the changes.
Yeah. If you were doing it on Instagram, you'd have to start the video making process from scratch.
Over again.
If you have to make any
I'm sure there'll
changes.
be a solution for that soon, but that's one of the main reasons why I would not advise doing it, especially if it's not just like a status update.
Yeah.
Right. If it's a really small status updatey thing, you're probably going to be just fine doing it within the app, and it'll probably be faster and it'll look more native. Maybe the algorithm even might prefer it that you edit it within the app. We don't know
but
that.
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of more questions. Kritika Goyal asks, the very first video you showed had the anchor moving around. Was it something done on Canva, or was it done on Reels itself? I think it was a reel, no?
Yeah, so
it was done.
Yeah, you can do it on both.
Yeah.
You would actually just basically have to stop recording after each sentence, then move the location of the presenter, and then we'll try and show you what that would look like.
Yep.
All right.
Look at this.
You have a video here, for example, and you go to the effects tab. So let me see if I can annotate this here a little bit. Can you see my mouse? Yeah, so basically when you're in Instagram, and we're gonna show this a little bit more in detail, you can change the location of where you are using this green screen effect. So it is possible to do that within Instagram. You just have to stop recording after every sentence, move yourself, or you might actually be able to move while recording. Should we try
While
that?
recording, I think you can.
So we're gonna hit record and see if that works. Yeah.
Now I'm moving on this clip, and now I'm talking about this particular thing, and then now I've moved to the top, and now I'm talking about this particular thing.
So it's doable.
Yeah. And stop. See, this is the thing. It'll ask you to save a draft, but then when you start a new draft, it kind of gets rid of it.
Yeah.
So I'll do start again. I hope that
answers the question.
Yeah. I think that's coming up in your tutorial, no?
Yes.
Something like it. Okay. So let me just run through a couple of more questions, and then we will get back to the tutorial. And a reminder for everybody here. So the two things I want to remind you about. The first thing is we're going to give you a feedback form, and we'll do that midway through the session because it's very important that we get your feedback. And usually we see that people don't find the time to do it. It'll be a 2-question survey based on what we've designed as a learning objective for you all. So that's one thing. And the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about, ICFJ's program, in which we're going to be selecting a few people from each region to receive a grant and mentorship. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Stay tuned for that. So let me just run through a couple of questions. Lot of questions about what are the best editing tools for mobile video editing. You've already answered that. There is one on copyright video, which I'll come to for later. But Preeti Chauhan asks, which will have more impact? Subtitles on a video, or what we call supers in television language, just like thick text appearing? Or I'll add another thing, which is, of course, instead of subtitles, you have auto captions, right? So which would be better?
Auto captions or subtitles are great if your story is more of a presenter led, or the video you're making is more presenter led. I would make the subtitles or auto captions really bold and very easy to read. But otherwise, if it's mostly a voiceover and not really presenter led, you can go with either. You could either just do it captions for the ease of it to save time, or you could make really nice titles that really highlight the bits and pieces of the voiceover that you want to emphasize on. So that's another way of kind of prioritizing or making it easier for your audience to watch and absorb the information.
Yeah, I think just to add to that is, I guess there is no wrong answer. You can choose whichever and make it work, and you won't suffer as a result of it. Like, you won't lose the opportunity to reach an audience.
Yeah.
Just something that we like to consider is making sure that there is always audio. Like, we do this as much as we can, but it's not always possible depending on the trending music or what kind of style we're doing. But having something out loud in a voiceover or presenter and having text just opens up how many people your content is accessible, because you can also reach people who are hard of hearing or hard of sight. They can still follow along what's being talked about.
Okay, I think we can go ahead. We'll come back to questions in a moment. We have 10 questions. Let's proceed ahead. Or you know what? Let me just actually ask you another question. Is there a way to record a video first and then place a green screen? So can you tell us a little bit about the green screen? And in the meantime, folks, can you please click on that SurveyMonkey link to add in your feedback? So there is going to be a question about the tutorial that Mano and Sanshey are going to do as well. So maybe you want to wait before you actually give feedback on the tutorial aspect, but please make sure that you at least put in your answers for the first section of this workshop. So yes.
All right. So in the green screen effect, it's basically like what we would do in a webinar or in a video call where we swap out the background, and it can be tricky in some situations. Some key elements to get it right are having really good lighting, so that the machine learning or the software can actually differentiate between you and the background. So adding a little bit of depth, being a little distant from the background, having a plain background that's not very similar to your skin tone, all of these kind of help. Can you add it later on? Yes, but it's trickier.
Yeah.
So you can do a trace out of someone and then motion track it on a desktop, but there are also apps like Video Leap, I believe, and maybe some options in VN, even though we've not used them recently. But because if you want to do it, the best option to do it is while you're recording. So you want to do it within the app, just like I demonstrated now, and we'll do it again. But otherwise, there is option.
It's harder, basically.
Harder.
So if you can avoid it, try and avoid it.
Yes.
Basically. So you asked, how does the light condition affect of the quality of the mobile video recordings? So
a lot.
It does, yeah. If the light is really, there's a low light, It can be harder for the camera, the software, to differentiate what's the background and what's you, because you
It
might be
also adds a lot
blending
of
in
grain. Yeah.
to the background, and it adds a lot of grain. So it's just helpful to have a lot of light. It's not always possible, but if you can,
A
it's
good
better.
way to work around that is if your front camera, the one on your screen, above your screen, is not very good in low light conditions, try and swap the camera to the back one so that you are using a camera which is more optimized to function in lower light situations.
Yeah. So we're just gonna move back to some of the stuff, I think, and then maybe I think some of the questions that have come in we're able to show via the tutorial.
Okay.
But
Yeah, but please keep them coming.
please keep them coming, yes. Just before we jump into the VN video, we just want to show that on Instagram, sometimes you see this option that's called Use Template. And what that allows you to do is if you tap on it, it will give you the option to, replace the images at the beat of the timing. Not every video has this, but if you see it, you can use that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone's asking about using KineMaster for video editing. Yeah, you can
KineMaster's
use
great.
KineMaster's great.
It's just paid.
It's just, yeah, to get rid of the watermark, it's paid. That's why we like VN Video. You don't have a watermark.
Yeah.
But yeah, that works. So for the tutorial that we're going to do, we are going to be basing this on a fact check that was done by Boom. This is similar actually to the one that we saw before, because it's a similar situation of a video going viral that some people are claiming is linked to the Syria-Turkey earthquake. It's a different video than the one that we saw earlier, but we're going to be using this as a starting point for the tutorial that we're going to walk through with you. Basically, the Boom fact check reveals that the footage that is circulating is actually of a building in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, so not in Syria or Turkey. And they also found evidence that the video was published online before the earthquake happened. So that kind of proves that it probably wasn't linked to this Turkey-Syria earthquake because it was published before. So that's what we're going to use, and we're going to be using two formats. We're going to be using the map zoom in and the green screen behind. And the reason we chose this one is because a big part of this fact check, like with many fact checks of videos and photos, comes back to what we've been talking about, is the use of maps, geolocation, street views, dash cams to help you see if a visual from a certain location is actually where it says it is. And as you already know, that's a very common way of verifying information. So that's how we're going to show you how to make a video like this for your own fact checks.
Okay, so all you're going to need is a phone, the VN Video app, or any other app if you're already used to using other applications. There are similar options on other apps as well. We know CapCut is a really popular app, but it's not available in India because a lot of the apps from that company are banned. And similarly, VN Video might not be available in your location, but then an equivalent app will do just fine.
Yeah. So this is what we sort of put together very briefly based on this fact check. It's super basic. You can change so many of the elements yourself. We're going to watch it together, and then we're going to break down how to make it. In the aftermath of the earthquake in Turkey and Syria, this video of a collapsing building began to circulate. But using geolocation and other fact-checking techniques, Boom was able to determine that not only was this building not in Turkey or Syria, it was published online before the recent earthquakes. This proves that the building collapse is not linked to the Turkey and Syria earthquake. All right, so a few basic elements, right? We have screenshots, we have a screen recording of us zooming in on the map, and then we have the presenter, which in this case is me, talking through the article a little bit. So we're going to start, before we even get to editing, we're going to start by making the elements we need to do the edit. So we're going to open up Google Maps. And we're going to put it into incognito mode. And the reason we're putting it in incognito mode is because it's going to remove any saved locations or favorites and stuff. So it just sort of like keeps the map a little bit more anonymous.
And if it makes your map look a little different, you can also go to these. Can you
Yeah.
mouse?
Can everyone see my mouse on the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're clicking on here, and you can change the mode. We're gonna select the terrain or satellite mode.
Let's go with satellite.
Let's go with satellite. All right, we'll go to satellite mode. It's a little bit easier to see. You can see that
then
we're
you
in
can
Kenya
search.
right now. And then we're gonna search for Old Maka Road, which is the location where the footage was found to be from. Right?
And give it a little bit of time to load.
Yes. So the reason we're starting on the zoomed in location is because it's going to be a lot harder to go from the satellite
Zoomed
view
out,
to
yeah.
zoom into the exact spot in Jeddah that we want to. So we're going to do it the reverse way. So here we have the road where this building was.
Yeah. And you want to switch on your screen recording.
So
it
on-
might be a different option depending on your software.
So we actually can't screen record right now because we're mirroring our phone.
Yeah.
But the idea is that you would hit screen record and we're going to start zooming out. All the way till you get a sense of where in the world that is. And we're going to hold for a few seconds, and then we would stop the screen recording. So you want to hold for a few seconds on the first location where you start, and hold a little bit in the last few seconds.
Yeah, so this is effectively the recording that we did. I'm just gonna scrub through it a little bit, and that's the first part of the video. Then we also need the screenshots. So we have that of the different tweets that went viral about it.
And this actually speaks to the question about copyright. For the exact concern of copyright, what we've selected to do for this article is that we've taken screenshots, because screenshots generally allow you to use the image. So we have a screenshot of the article of the building, like right when it's starting to collapse, and also when it's, I think when it's not fully, so when it's collapsing even more. So we're using screenshots as a way to like
something that is used for like educating or giving information can often fall under fair use. I would encourage everyone to look into that, and most social media platforms have a fair use policy which you can look up, and it's a bit vague, but that's something that with more time and practice you'll be able to understand what's okay to use and what's not okay to use. For example, using someone's paywalled or exclusive content might not be, a screenshot of that might not really fly, whereas something that's available on a public platform and is spreading misinformation might be considered as fair use if you're correcting the information.
Yeah, I mean, once it's also published, I mean, in theory, if it's published on something like Twitter,
public platform,
on a public platform, you should be able to use it. But it's a value, like it's a good concern to have, and it's good to be careful to not overuse someone else's content. You really just want to use it for the purpose of, I'm showing you that this is wrong or this is right. This is like, this is correct, this is factual, this is not factual.
And also, like, downloading the clip itself and then sharing it is different from using a screenshot of a public post. So those are the nuances you have to take care of. But all of this is kind of governed by licensing. A lot of stock visual websites like Pixabay or Pexels have their own licensing agreements, which is like a Pixabay license or a Pexels license, which has a separate page which kind of says what all you're allowed to do with it, whether you're allowed to use it in commercial work or not use it in commercial work, whether you're allowed to edit it or use it as it is only. All of these have different degrees of licenses. And the most common one that you'll come across is the CC, Creative Commons license, and there are Open Creative Commons license, which basically allow you to reuse, edit, and also use like distribute a piece of content. So
so hopefully, I mean, I know it really
it's
depends.
a lot. That's an entire separate session in itself.
But yeah, it depends on the reason, that's why we're choosing to do screenshots in this case, just to be super safe. So now we need to do the piece to camera, right? So we showed you very briefly earlier, but we're going to do it again. And you can do this in Instagram, you can do it on TikTok, you can do it on YouTube, and we're going to be recording in the app. So when you have the app open, you see this little these little stars here.
Yeah.
That's
the
the effects.
button.
So because we've done green screen already, it's actually popping up. But if you don't have it, you go to this search bar, you type in green screen, and it allows you to choose that one. So I'm tapping on it. It gives me a preview of what it'll look like. I tap on it because that's what I want. And then I'm going to select add media. Right? And I have this screenshot of the article.
Could you go back and Manon, and tell us where the add media button is?
Yes. So
look at this.
there we go. Sorry. So once you go to effects and you select your green screen, right above the record button, there's
Let me just put an
media.
arrow mark there. How do I put an arrow mark?
Draw.
Arrow.
So it says add media here. And when it says add media, it gives me all of my folder. So I'm going to select the article and it's added it. I can change
that's
it.
opening your album, your screenshots,
your
your
photo
videos. So you can basically put anything in your background. That's photos album.
Yeah. And I can change the media afterwards if I want to, right? You see that it says change media there. And then I'm going to just hit record and
you hit record by clicking on this big circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the aftermath of the Syria-Turkey earthquake, there was a video circulating that claimed to show a building collapsing due to that. So as you can see, I messed up my sentence. That's why we pre-recorded this before the session, so we can use the pre-recording. But that's totally fine if you mess it up. If you're using another editing app, you can edit that mistake out again. Just retake the sentence again.
Yeah.
All right, so then in theory, if this was a good recording, we would hit next. So in the aftermath of the Syria-Turkey earthquake, there was a video circulating that claimed to show a building collapsing due to that. So in the aftermath of the Syria-Turkey earthquake, it's now saved to my photos, right? And so I've got all the elements that I need. We have the map zooming in, we have the green screen, and we have the screenshots, additional screenshots of our video. So now we're ready to take it to the edit. So we're gonna open up VN Video.
Yeah, it's this one.
So because it's free, there's a little ad that plays. It's just 5 seconds long, but then it goes away. And we are going to start by clicking on this plus button on the bottom.
Yeah, and it's best to start this once you have all your elements ready, but you can also, like, initially when you're starting off, put in one element at a time or build it bit by bit.
So then we're going to select new project, and this gives us our camera roll. So we're going to select the screen recording that we have of the map, and we're actually going to select these visuals in the order that they're going to show up in the video, but if you do it in a different order, that's okay. You can change the order later. So we have the map. We can go to our photos, which is going to have our screenshot. Then we can go back to video and add the sort of piece to camera that we have.
And now you can see at the bottom that all of these clips are in this order, and you can hit this blue button right here.
So we're going to tap that. This makes what we call a timeline. So it has all of the clips in order.
And you'll notice there's a credit slide at the end, which you can use or you can make your own. Ideally, if you're doing it for a publication or for a channel, you will want to make something that's customized to you. So to remove this, when this is highlighted, when you just hold on to this timeline and move it around, it lets you scrub through the different frames of the video. So you can use that to highlight this final clip. And this white line is the playhead. Wherever this white line is in the center, that's the part that you are seeing on the top in the preview. So if I move this white line to here, the preview shows me this on the top. Okay.
So we're going to remove this, tap on it, and we have the delete option up here.
Or at the bottom.
Or at the bottom here. Okay. So we've deleted that. Now we're going to scrub all the way to the beginning.
Yeah, and if you selected anything in the wrong order, first you'd want to fix the order by just long pressing on it and moving it around. Right? Okay.
So remember, we recorded this in the reverse order, and for the reel, we don't want to like start at the location that we want to show people. We want to end there. So what's great about VN Video is that you have the option to reverse. So once you've tapped on this clip, once it's highlighted, in the bottom you have a menu that gives you the option to reverse. So we're going to tap on reverse here, and it's going to take about 30 seconds to process. It's quite quick, especially because this is a really short clip. So we're just going to let it do its thing. And so the first thing we're going to do is reverse the clip, and then also it's a 30-second clip. So the recording of us zooming out takes 30 seconds, and that's just way too long.
So the other thing that we're going to do is speed up the clip. That's also an option at the bottom once your clip is highlighted. And you can select how much faster you want it or how little time you want to show the clip for, and depending on that you can speed up the entire screen recording.
Yeah, we do have a question about whether this app has all the features that a paid or pro app offers, and yeah, VN Video has pretty much like most
they have a paid option also for unlocking if you want to archive a certain number of projects, but as far as we know you can basically keep using it without having to pay a single penny.
Yeah, it's really good. It's got all of the stuff. All right, we're almost there. 77%.
Yeah, the other thing you'll notice is that there's all of this interface bits showing on the screen recording of the map. We can also crop that out, and you do that just the way you would zoom into a photo. So you do the same thing in this,
which we'll show you as soon as this processing is done. All right, processing over. So again, we're going to tap on this clip to get the options that we want. And we're going to scroll here at the bottom, and we have this option called speed. And we're actually going to go to regular, and we're going to just increase the speed to maybe 3x.
You can 10x. See how much time it
yeah,
does.
so the duration, it tells you that if you do it at 10x speed, it goes down from 31 seconds to just 3 seconds long. Right, so we'll select that.
Hit the check mark.
Hit the check mark. And let's play it back. All right.
Yeah. So maybe we don't want to start it that far.
So if we want to trim this a little bit more.
So you bring the playhead to the part that you want to start at. Let's say we want to start here. And then you use the scissor to split it.
So it turns it one clip into 2 clips.
Yeah, let me show that again. So let's say we want to start the video here. So I put the white playhead in at that exact point and select the scissor. Now you have clip 1 and clip 2. So we don't need clip 1. We're going to select that and hit delete. And you can notice there's a lot of distraction.
Yeah, like we don't need the search. We don't need the latest in the area. That's a little distracting to our point.
So you can just like pinch and zoom it on top of the preview where the preview is happening, and it'll let you select the part that is showing right here. Oh, mirror image.
There we go.
Okay.
So that's the beginning of our clip. Right. Then we want to add a bit of a transition between this clip and the next clip. So do you see these plus buttons in between? They allow us to add some cool effects. If we tap on the plus, we are going to select, so plus, and we're going to select the zoom option. So it shows you a preview of what that effect is going to do. This is zooming out, but actually we want to give the impression that we're zooming into the map, right? Or into the tweet. So we're going to tap that zoom again, and it gives us the option of diving in. It looks like we're diving into the map. And we're going to select this check mark here. Don't select apply to all because it'll make that change to everything else in the video, just the check mark. And then it looks like this. Boom. All right. And then we can also
Can I ask a question here? While editing, do you usually have undo buttons in case you've done something, you made a mistake?
The undo button is right here. That's a really great question. This is the little undo button, so it'll save you.
Undo, and they also have redo in case you undo by mistake.
Yes. Yeah, so there's a few seconds pause before I start speaking here, and we don't need that in the video. That's sort of extra fluff. So just like we trimmed the earlier version, we're going to trim to right the point where I start speaking.
Split. So now you have clip 1 and clip 2. So you select this clip and hit delete, and then if I hit the undo button right here, it'll come back, and if I hit redo, it'll go away again, right? So
In the aftermath,
now it's a sudden kind of a jump cut, so even that we can like smoothen out by hitting this plus again for
In the af-
and then selecting
in the aftermath of so that looks like in the aftermath of the earthquake in Turkey and Syria. All right. And similarly, at the end, you can chop off any extra bit, like when I go to the screen to hit the stop recording button.
Yep. So again, clip 1, clip 2, delete the second one.
And Syria earthquake.
But if this seems like an abrupt ending to you, again, you can use the plus button right here at the end and select fade to black or fade.
Syria earthquake. Syria earthquake. All right. So the next thing we might want to do is adding
Credit.
Yes, credit.
Yeah.
Yes.
In case you want to add credit, you can also select this plus button. Or if you forgot to add a clip during your edit and you're
You're like,
confused
oh
how
shoot,
you're
I
going
need
to
to add another photo. I need to add another video clip.
that's where this big plus button at the end will help. Remember, so these tiny plus buttons between the clips are for adding transitions, but this big giant plus button at the end
Is where you're going to get your clips.
yeah, okay, so we can use that, or the other option is to select a subtitle or a stock and just add a white block. And once you've done that, you can add text here.
So the text bar is up here. So you have all these layers that allow you to add more information, right? So the text is right here. We're going to select title. We're going to select standard here. It might look slightly different if you have an Android phone, but for the most part, this is how you would do it. It's mostly the same with a few minor differences.
So you can't see the text here. So we're going to first go to the color.
This color wheel, when you tap on the text, allows you to change the color of the text.
And I'm going to say credit name here, and then done.
All right. And you can also add text at the beginning, right? Because this map zooming in is nice and all, but you want to give a little bit of context of what people can expect, right? So we're going to do the same thing. We're hitting on the T here. We're hitting title, standard,
And
we're
select
going to
the text.
Yeah, tap on it, and we're gonna write out a viral building collapse video, or from, I'm just reading what as he's typing. A viral building collapse from Jeddah is being shared
as
a
collapse due to the recent
earthquake.
earthquake.
So you might be seeing that there's a problem with the text here, right? We
There are
can't
multiple
see
problems
it.
with the text here.
It's too tiny. It's coming off the screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to tap partway through the sentence, and we're just going to hit enter at the end of a word. That's better already. Still hard to see. So we have a couple of options here. And that option is when we tap on this text,
Edit, yeah.
and we hit edit, we have this color wheel. And where it says text here, you can see it says background over here. So the background, we're selecting a black background, and we're increasing the opacity so that a background pops up behind the text. And that should allow, it's probably a little small on the screens right now, but for a phone screen, if someone's watching on the phone, it might be a little bit more visible.
Or you can also make this 3 lines by changing where you have the enter.
Yeah, if you make it more lines, you can make the font size bigger. All right. And we just pinch and zoom and it makes it a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
So that's the text. We can also add some movement to it. So if you tap here and you go to edit again, or sorry, right next to edit, there's motion. If we can go back to show it.
Yeah, 15 minutes.
So next to edit, there's this motion option. And we're going to do slide and slide into the right. Then we're going to select out animation and slide out to the right. So again, we've been talking a lot about how important movement is, and this is one way to add movement to the text within the app. So you can add whatever text or sentences you want. We probably, I think we will wrap on showing this demonstration
And how to
here.
export.
But we'll show you how to export. And that is this top button on the right here.
And you can duplicate this text as many times as you want and keep changing the text by just tapping here. Okay. Once you're done with it, what you want to do is go to this blue button on the top right, hit export, and then it'll save you on your thing.
It'll be saved on your camera roll,
Yeah.
and then you can go add it on Instagram. So there's a question about copyright music. So that's why we didn't actually use music in this edit. We're gonna add the music on Instagram or on TikTok when we're ready to publish. The other option for copyright-free music is YouTube has a really great we got an ad from VN Video again, but
1 second. Okay, it is saved.
Okay, so the video is saved. So YouTube audio library, if you check that out, you can find a lot of Creative Commons music to use. But we are going to do this on Instagram. So what we do is we open up the reels on the bottom.
Look at this.
Left or right, we select a reel. Then we select the video that we made.
Select add.
Add up here on the right.
And then you
Audio is on the
want
top.
to select next and then audio?
No, audio first.
No, next and then audio.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Both work.
Okay.
So we're going to add a song.
All right.
Sorry, we're rushing here a little bit because we're in the last 10 minutes, but please feel
Yeah,
free to
we're
reach out to us
very short on
afterwards.
time. I want to take some questions as well. So
Won't get your copyright because it's added in the
app itself. Yeah. All right. So that's how you would make a fact check. It's one way to make it with multiple different formats that are very popular. So we're a bit short on time, but yes, please ask your questions.
yeah, a couple of things before we go ahead. I mean, this is very, very useful. So thank you so much. And there's going to be a recording available on the ICFJ YouTube channel. So if you missed it, you can go back to it. So let's do questions. There are 17 questions yet to be answered, but I'm going to batch them.
Rapid fire.
And some of them are going to be already kind of answered. So very quickly, let's do rapid fire round, as you said. Medha Chakrabarti, would you recommend any AI editing tools for visual edits?
Not yet, but they are getting very good. The problem with that is that it makes a lot of mistakes and requires human intervention. You'll probably save time by doing it from scratch rather than going to trying to go and later on fixing it.
But we think that that's going to change soon, so there'll be more available.
Okay, just follow Manon and Sanshey on all their social media, and I'm sure they'll talk about it. Ruby Dhingra asks, how many elements are too many for vertical videos? Sometimes we see image, audio, bullet point, other emoji type. How do we ensure it's not too cluttered?
I think for any video, more than 3 points becomes really hard to focus, but for accessibility, it is important that we add subtitles or text on videos. So that's a definite must. And then if you want to keep it, it's also depending on what aesthetic you want to go for. If you just want the visual and just a background voiceover, like without a body present, kind of guiding you through the content, that's totally fine if that works for you.
I think the main point to ask yourself is whether an element is distracting. And if you feel like it's distracting from the main information, don't use it. If it helps add information, like add a context to it, then you should use it.
Okay, a bunch of questions on what is an optimum length for a video. In some platforms like YouTube Shorts, you can't do more than 60 seconds, of course. On Instagram, I think you can do more, right? And if 90 seconds on Reels, and if it's longer, it's no longer a Reel, but it's still, but you can still do it on Instagram. So, but what is an ideal duration? So one thing I noticed from all your examples is that none of them go anywhere close to the maximum.
Yes.
Some of them are 16 seconds, some of them are 37 seconds. So can you answer that question?
We've noticed that the best amount of time for getting retaining someone's attention is around 40
seconds,
40
not
seconds,
minutes.
and that's across platforms. I don't know why, but it's just a phenomenon that we're going through, that the drop-off rate, like fewer people will watch it beyond 40 seconds. So ideally, you want to cover at least the most important part within 40, even if you want to keep adding disclaimers or additional information later on.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so I think this is a question Ruby again asks about using footage from news channels and other media houses. I think you partly answered that. But I don't know. Look, for example, if I'm watching something on my mobile, on my laptop or on my TV, and I take a video of it on my phone, who does it belong to? I think that's a gray area, right? So
I think it still belongs to the place that holds the copyright for it, because it is a derivative content, and a derivative that is not adding value, like a recording of a news report is not adding value. But as soon as you add a narrative to it and you're saying that this is what this news report is saying, then it starts treading into fair use domain, because you are adding value. So if you're remixing the content or turning it into something else completely new and not just replicating it, then it might not be then it's a gray area. But
that said, I do want to do one very big caveat, is that just because even if you're doing something that would technically fall under fair use, this is particularly challenging on YouTube, is that if you publish something where you can hear a song in the background, for example, YouTube has an automated system for copyright strikes. So if it notices a song that belongs to someone else, you'll get that strike right away without a human even looking at what the content is, whether it was fair use or not. That's happened to us. We actually put a different song and didn't realize in the background there was still left a slight audio that was from, I think it was like a Bollywood song that was trending at the time. And we'd added our own copyright-free song on top, but YouTube was able to pick up that copyright music that was in the background.
Because it wasn't fully removed.
Because it wasn't fully removed. So you have to be careful that even if it's fair use because it's less than 6 seconds, these platforms might flag you anyway.
Yeah, but also like if you need to use a trending song, use it within the app and it'll be just fine. It'll
like on
tell
Instagram
you how much
Reels,
duration is allowed.
You can use that.
Kamran Ashraf, I think that his question has already been answered. So someone asks, what about Viva Video? I'm using that for my video editing. Anna asks, I'm sorry, could not pronounce your second name, but Anna asks that question.
Viva Video is also great. If you're whichever app you're used to, just stick to it. See that it has all the options that you require, and it helps you feel more comfortable. Kind of open it and complete the task you've set for yourself. That's the only parameter for video editing, or any app for that matter, or for an email client, right? Everyone has their own favorite email client. Some people like Outlook, other people like Gmail. But similarly, video app is completely of personal preference. Absolutely, if it works for you, it works for you. That's it.
Right. I'm going to leave Shayan Kundu's question for the very end. So questions about, how do you use auto captions? How do you add subtitles? I think we've covered it. So in the interest of that. There's a question from Kamran again about how to use video on multiple platforms, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram Reels. So I suppose using it editing it on a separate app makes sense. Any thoughts on that?
Absolutely.
On a workflow, for example?
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, because you've edited it in VN Video, it's saved to your camera roll, which makes it easy for you to publish on all of the different platforms. And you can change the audio that you use in the back as needed. basically. So like you would add the music on YouTube separately and on Instagram and on TikTok, but the base of the edit would be the same that you have on VN Video. So
Right. Someone asks what your speakers' social media accounts are. So if you can
that's the
bung
next
them
slide.
in, that'll be
There we
great.
go. These are
Okay. So we were going to do that anyway. In the meantime, okay, Rohit Upadhyay says, just wants to take a moment to express sincere appreciation for the fantastic work being done by Sanshey and Manon. So that's not a question, but really appreciation.
Rohit is
How
just
do we
biased. He's a great guy.
Rohit.
He has a wonderful YouTube channel where he does some amazing ground reports from all over India. So everyone should also check that out. He's
Yes.
doing great. And thank you, Rohit.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Rohit.
Please follow Rohit Upadhyay as well. He was part of our recent accelerator also.
Nice.
So are there any online collaboration tools for making viral videos? Online collaboration tools. For example,
I guess you could do it
videos
in
and voiceovers being done by someone else. Mahesh Puttapaka asks this question.
I guess you could do it in Canva. Canva is really good that way, where it lets you like start a design and then hand it off.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do use Canva for like social posts, so you may already be familiar with it, but it
And
has
they have a
some
lot of
video
templates
options,
also. Yeah.
so you can actually make a video on Canva.
There is a vertical video template which you can use, which is 1080 by 1920 instead of 1920 by 1080, or the other way around. Yeah, is a good option to look into, and there are lots of any of these things. This is not new. We have not invented this. We've learned this by trying out different apps and watching a lot of tutorials that are out there.
Yes.
So I hope this is just like a really good primer for you to start and going and exploring all the different options that you have and what works for you.
Okay, Neha Verma, last two questions I'm going to take. Before I do that, please a reminder to fill in the feedback form, and I'll also do an announcement of what's coming up next, including the mentorship and grant. So please fill in the feedback form. Last two questions. Neha Verma asks, how do we use trending music if we have our original voice over to be used in the video? Can I still use the trending music and turn down music level to 0?
You can actually. We're gonna quickly show it really quickly. So when you've added the music, you have the I'm gonna hit mute. Right. So you can. There's a control option right here at the beginning of this, and it lets you change the camera audio and the music audio. You can change these levels so that your voiceover can still be heard, and the music, the trending music you add, you can bring down. Now, the question about the ethics of doing that, I think the thing to point out is that
link to the Turkey and Syria earthquake.
So the ethics of it is, if it's a really traumatizing story, maybe try not to use music that's like super upbeat or happy, right? If you're talking about people who have been, who have died and stuff, just be sensitive of like what kind of music. It's okay to use a trending music, just think about the sentiment that you want to convey and try not to use something that's happy for a sad story, basically. That's something to consider.
Yeah, and there is a Creator Studio equivalent music library for Instagram and Facebook also.
Yeah.
So you can
Right.
also use.
Okay, so Shayan Kundu asks a very basic question. Bad actor who's interested in spreading fake news can also use the same kind of creative techniques.
Yes.
So it's a existential question for us fact checkers, so that's why I kept it for the end. So when we fact checkers also do the same kind of heavily edited videos, there could be allegations that we are tampering with the truth. So I'm not even saying it's a question that you need to answer. I'm just leaving it out there because it's a question we'll think about. So
it's a really tough one.
I think that's one of the questions that you have to ask yourselves quite regularly, especially when you're trying out new things. And a lot of the decisions that come down that we make in those respects, whether we want to do a certain piece of content or do it in a certain way, is that at the end of the day, will it be useful to the audience?
I think the other thing, so that's really important, but also to add that like this is where this idea of pre-bunking comes in, which is to teach the audience how to identify or how to figure out for themselves whether something's factual or not. And there's a lot of potential in
And that can
pre-booking.
go a long way in building trust between you and the audience, and also like kind of giving people transparency into your processes, into how you are going about a certain thing. And if someone wants to check your work, they can check it like that.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to sneak in another question. Can you schedule reels? Or can you schedule? Is
Yes.
scheduling okay?
Scheduling reels, I'm not so sure. I think you can. Yeah, I think you can schedule reels, right?
I
mean,
haven't tried it before, honestly. So
It
I
might
mean,
not
most
be
questions, some of these questions are Googleable, some of them are not, but I think this would be a Googleable question. And one last one, do we have an inbuilt audio library for YouTube, like in the case of Instagram?
yes. Yes, so similarly on YouTube Shorts, when you're uploading, you can add audio. The songs that you find may not be the same on YouTube as you have on Instagram, and that's something that we've faced before and found a little frustrating, that like a song we really like on Instagram is not the same on YouTube Shorts, but you can find something else that's similar enough to make it work.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't think there's a native option to schedule on Instagram for Reels, but I think there should be an option within other platforms to schedule a Reel post.
Okay. With that, I think we'll bring the questions to an end. You've answered 40 questions. 40 questions.
Thank you,
Is that a
everyone.
record?
It is, because 2 sessions ago, we had 42 questions. We were able to answer only 20, take only 20. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. Some of those questions are not really questions, but still, you can say 35 at the very minimum. So thank you so much, for answering the questions, for teaching us workshop, and for telling us the 6 different formats. Folks, please fill in the feedback form. It's very important so that we can get better. I think really this has been a fantastic session. And Mano and Sanshey, please go to their social media handles.
Any doubts you have, we can have the conversation on Twitter. It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please tweet to them on their behalf, I'm saying, and then they will answer the question. And on that note, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to tell you what's coming up next, and I'm going to tell you what little information I can give also regarding the grant process. So let me just quickly share my own screen. So this has been today's session, and coming up next, we have podcasting. And in many ways, podcasting is a very opposite of mobile led vertical videos. If one is 30 seconds, now an Amit Verma podcast can be 3 hours long or 5 hours long. Now he's going to tell you why that is a very useful way of doing things as well. So you don't want to miss that. That's next Thursday. And then we have Rishad Patel talking about design. I think design is something I personally would love to learn more about. There's a lot I can learn, I feel, about design that I don't know. That's the Thursday after that. And then we have something to tie everything together, all the things we've learned. How do you deploy them with the strategy, especially if you're a small newsroom? We'll have that as well. And we are going to be selecting about a few people. I don't have an exact number, and we're going to be giving them a grant. And the criteria for that is that you participants should have attended at least 3 of these webinars to qualify. Okay. And then we will tell you by the 16th, which would be the next session, which is halfway through this month, we will give you more details about how this mentorship process and this grant process will happen, what the application process is. Is there an automatic selection? Is there anything else? We'll give you all the details in next week's session. So you'll find that. Thanks so much, all of you, for joining us. You've spent 90 minutes with us, and it's been fantastic.
Yeah, this has been such an engaged conversation with everyone. So thank you so much, everyone. We had a lot of fun.
We enjoyed every single bit of it. Hope you did too.
This is great. And I think you both are in Nairobi right now. So if any one of you is logging in from Kenya or any other part of the African continent, you're on the same time zone. We noticed in the last few sessions that people log in from, this is focused on Southeast Asia and South Asia, but people are logging in from all over the world based on, when they're awake, essentially.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Just wanna actually just a big thank you to you and your team, Venkatesh, for all of this work that you've been doing, because these are really great sessions.
Yeah.
And Divya too.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think we're both in the partly in the business of creating journalism, but also teaching journalism as different aspects. So yeah, totally 100%. So folks, you can start dropping off the call if you feel like. At this point in time, we'll just chat for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll also log off. Yeah.
We also have another example if anyone is interested in seeing another one.
Go for it. Go for it. I mean, if you're not tired, go for it. Go for it.
Just gonna, is it okay if I screen share?
Yes, you can do that. I think we can stop recording as well at this point in time.
So this is just an example of someone engaging massively with their audience in a really creative way, and their audience